this is a kind of thrift shop of soccer, Major League Soccer, and they have had their stars come in there, but usually when there has been. This is not the case with Messi, although I don't know, is Messi far from his prime at 35 years old?
People thought he was until the World Cup, and then they realized he's not.
But didn't they fix the World Cup? Wasn't the World Cup rigged so that Messi would win it?
He had a lot of PKs, yes.
Oh, come on. I mean, the guy would look at Messi cross-eyed. Penalty kick. All right, put him on the stripe. And it wasn't like he was booming these penalty kicks either. I mean, Messi's approach on the penalty kicks is great. He really does go by the old Brooklyn thing, right? Your mama.
I was going to say, it's like your dream.
And then dribbles one through the middle, not even like one side or the other. Look, I don't know much about the game in terms of what kind of skill it takes. The way he maneuvers through six guys, the problem with the game is it usually ends up in a whole pile of shit, nothing. He makes all these moves, and he's exhausted, and he's running, he's schwitzing, and, people are yelling and screaming. And then at the end of dribbling through six guys, the ball goes out of bounds, and the goalie picks it up and throws it to midfield. That's it.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on this Tuesday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and the usually dapper-looking Mike Lubie Lubitz, once again looking resplendent in blue. How are you, Mike Lubie Lubitz? I hope everything is going well. We got off to a little bit of a late start. I'm assuming, once again, it's activities with the dog. What do you think?
Yes, it was activities with the dog.
Okay, all right.
Oh, my God, USA, Portugal was
We're a little slow to come around on it.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to that thrill in Manila that took place. It's confusing because with this stuff taking place in Australia and the overall, I would have to say just mild interest that I have. Are we only paying attention to this because we feel like we have to? The women's soccer team and their quest. No, if they could win the World Cup, obviously that's quite an achievement, is it not? Soccer was never our game, Lubie. Would you agree that that's a fair statement? I think even Jim Sarney would line up with that one, that soccer was never our game in the United States of America. So to see what the women were able to achieve, and we know Jim's obsession with women's sports, which is fine. I'm watching a couple of women, young ladies, knocking the shit out of the ball in some tennis tournament that I think it's taken place in Prague. Just happened to flip it on here because there's always something on. Some European tournament, 6 a.m. on the Tennis Channel. I am not familiar with either of these young ladies and never seen either of them play before. Palikova, I'm assuming, is a Russian and or Belarusian, somewhere in that region of the universe, and a young lady named Emiliana Arango, who looks to be about 14 years old. And she is out there just drilling shots. Looks a little bit like a young version of Maria Sakkari, the Greek goddess, who seems to be knocking on the door all the time and never quite gets to that level where you're thinking, wow, she really is going to be a star. I don't think she's quite as good, Sakkari, as the really upper echelon, the top 3 or 4 other women in the world. But, you talk about evolution. These girls are knocking the snot out of the ball on the hard courts. And, of course, we still have the U.S. Open to come where, think about this. If Djokovic wins the U.S. Open, Novak Djokovic, he would have won the Australian, the French, been within an eyelash of knocking off Alcaraz in a 5-set bloodbath at Wimbledon. And then he would, if he wins the U.S. Open, which he's obviously going to be among the favorites, if not the favorite, on the hard courts, would have won the Grand Slam, right? Same year, annual Grand Slam. When was the last time that was done? Rod Laver? Who was the last guy to do that, Lubie? Do you have any idea? What, do you got a fly in your soup there?
I don't know, because Sampras never won a French. And, was it Federer? Federer won all the titles at some point, right? I don't know if he did it in the same
never, not in the same year. I don't think Federer ever did it in the same year. Same year Grand Slam. What would that be? The natural Grand Slam. There have been people who have held all 4 titles at the same time. I want to say maybe even Djokovic has done that. I'm not sure if Roger did. Nadal, I don't think so. Andy Murray, when you're talking about the big 4. Quite amazing. Imagine that. You come within an eyelash, and it's not like Djokovic was playing a lot either, because he's been subdued by injuries and sidelined by injuries, and has stayed out of a lot of preliminary events leading up to these big Grand Slam tournaments. But that's pretty incredible, right? This was a guy who was written off years ago. I remember we were covering a Miami Open. And Djokovic was getting more attention for. Remember, he used to do the mock imitation of who was it that had like a really unusual serve, Sharapova, and he was making fun of her, and everybody was on Djokovic's back in his case, saying, geez, you know what? If this guy would concentrate on tennis, maybe he'd accomplish something," because he wasn't getting the results that obviously he achieved later on. Whatever he did to straighten it out, was it a sports psychologist? What do you think Novak Djokovic did? What was his secret, Libby? Because he got focused. It wasn't an Agassi type of story where the guy hit rock bottom or anything like that. It just seemed like his focus wasn't necessarily centralized on winning tennis. And it certainly became all of that because, as I've been maintaining, I want to contend that Novak Djokovic is among, if not the toughest outs in all of sport.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you beat this guy, you did something. There's no question. He did not hand it to you on a platter. Even on his worst of days, he's always going to be a dangerous opponent.
Yep.
But quite an evolution here in women's sports. I mean, if you're watching this is obviously a preliminary round match in a somewhat nondescript tournament. And you got two young girls in there that are just absolutely amazing. Incredible. Now, does that get us to the women's soccer team? I was going to begin with a more important question, Louie, which involved the evolution of politics, because I was thinking about this. And I don't want to dwell on it. We always say that. We always qualify it by saying we don't want to dwell on it, and then we proceed to go ahead and hammer Trump, DeSantis, every Republican asswipe that is out there going, "Oh, you know what? What about Hillary?" Enough already with that. What about what you're doing? Let's look at the truth here. Remember John F. Kennedy, one of his most famous things, and he was famous for a lot of different stuff that had, sayings that had such depth to them that you had to think about it for a while and say, you know what, that man is right. Right. And one of his more famous lines was, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." And I realize right now I got this all wrong about Trump, because what he is doing for this country is amazing. To go out there and get himself indicted on various criminal activity and endeavors, on our behalf, Lubie. Think about that. All those guys that were crawling on the wall of the Capitol building when the cops were being shot and people died, and they were in there, and he was imploring people to go and hang Mike Pence. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go hang the vice president. He's about to do something I don't want him to do, which is act like he's supposed to for a change. What a weak entry he is, too, into the Republican nominees. Well, I don't want to say anything bad about my man, Donnie. Good, then why are you running, you asshole? What the hell is your problem? All of these guys, I mean, it's just incredible. But the idea that this guy is going out there, it's not Trump that's being indicted. It's the American public that's being indicted, because this guy's on the phone. Did you see this poor schnook, De Oliveira? It's always the guy, is he going to take the fall for Donnie Trump? The poor maintenance guy there from Mar-a-Lago? He looked like the scene was overwhelming. I mean, it can be very intimidating, I can assure you, walking into a federal courthouse. You don't even know what's happening. It's like, it's too much. And you're thinking, how is this possibly happening to me? I mean, what could this guy have been thinking, Lubie? Did you see any of the clips? This guy on the news, De Oliveira, the third guy that was named in the Trump documents case, which that almost seems mild, that he was sharing, military secrets with anybody who would look at him. Compared to some of the rest of the stuff that's out there. Are we having issues already, Lubie? Well, what do you think? We're getting all kinds of bizarre signals here. I'm okay. We're coming through.
Fine,
I see people on the chat line.
We're talking.
All right, good. I don't know. I mean, is that not one of the most noble things that you've ever seen in the history of the world? Where a man would go out there and face numerous indictments in criminal cases, federal, local, state, whatever, all on our behalf, Louie, all to help us. I feel so relieved that I finally came around to the realization. In fact, Donnie, you got my vote. He's going to. How on earth this man gets the Republican nomination is a disgrace to the Republican Party. It really is. And you can't argue with any of these people, so there's no point, getting into it. Do you think the majority of people, is it possible, agree with us on all of this, Lubie, that this is the most insane period of time that we have ever seen by far, And not claiming that, I don't know. I mean, is Joe Biden complicit in some of this other stuff? Did he get on the phone there with Hunter while he was sitting with these Ukrainian leaders and say, you know what? It's nice that you're giving my son that $85,000 a month job. Here's a guy totally inept. That's fucked up on crack. That in general, you would have to say that Hunter Biden, living a life that you would think is mostly of privilege, is pretty much a complete fuck up. No.
Oh yeah, he sucks. I'm not saying don't investigate him. I'm not saying don't put him away. I don't give a shit what deal.
And if there are any ties to Joe Biden, then good. Now go ahead and make the case, right?
That's fine, but there aren't. They've literally looked for you. Like that's my thing is, and that's why I don't have a problem throwing Trump under every bus, because Trump has spent 70 years being a criminal. Trump has spent every year throwing every partner he has, including children and family, under every bus known to man. Trump
imagine this guy, the Oliver, ends up doing like 5 years in federal prison for moving some boxes. Because I mean, look, if you worked in a place, right, your natural instinct is not to say, no, I'm not doing that, boss. I mean, that seems like it would be criminal activity, right? Guy asked you to move some boxes. What do you think, Lubie? Would you have done it if you're a maintenance guy at Mar-a-Lago? And the Trumpster comes to you personally and says, can you help me here? I got all these boxes. I don't know what to do with them, a bunch of golf shirts and everything. Could you just help me move them into some secret place so the feds don't find them? I don't think he put it to him that way. But I guess employee number 4 is probably in the mode to cooperate. What do you think, Lubie? Is that what's happening there with Jack Smith, who does not look like a very pleasant guy to for the Trumpster to be going out there and calling this guy a raving lunatic, maybe not the best position to take. What do you think, Libby?
My only position is Trump's a criminal. I don't have what other position. What other position is there? Look, and you can investigate Biden, and you can say, oh well. Here's my thing. One guy has a track record of 70 years or 60 years, whenever he started being a criminal, doing criminal shit. Joe Biden was like the youngest senator when he was voted in. He's now in his 80s. So that's like 50 years of being in office. 50 years. Never a whiff of anything. Like that, to me, to compare the two is fucking stupid. I'm actually going to be that honest. It's fucking dumb. Trump has literally screwed every partner, screwed every customer, screwed every business for 50 years. Biden has had 50 years of office. Not one whiff. He's going to, in his 60s or 70s, say, you know what? I'm going to ruin everything for my fucking stupid ass son. I'm sorry. Sometimes you can use a lot. First of all, evidence-wise, there's nothing. They've done investigations for years on it and found nothing. But on top of that, you can't use logic. One guy has been in criminal cases for 50 years. One guy's never done anything. So we think he knows his son's a fuck up. He's never really like talked much about Hunter. He knows he's a fuck up. He's going to throw away everything for his fuck up son. Like, you guys have children. You guys have nephews and grandkids. Really? You're going to be, and if he's going to do it, would it be that obvious? Trump is. We know Trump doesn't give a shit. Biden hasn't been popped for anything. If he is going to do something for his son, it would be that direct. Like, come on. I just think it's dumb because Trump sucks to assume Biden had to have done the same thing Trump's done. He hasn't. He's been in office.
No, it's a bizarre insinuation.
Like, come on. And well, I follow the money. They follow the money. They've done investigation. No one's hidden anything. Whatever the Fox is saying is a
the guy. The difference. So Trump's on tape, like committing crimes.
Yes,
he's literally on tape. I mean, just saying, hey, switch this up, or it's not going to be so good for you. To people, and then on top of that, I mean, the way that he insinuated that these poor women in Atlanta that were just counting votes, volunteering, were criminals, and ruin their lives. That doesn't mind squashing virtually anybody. Anyway, the good news is, and I feel cleansed because now that I know that Trump is only doing this for me, I feel really good about the status of the country. All right, let's get into this. I don't know what day it is anymore because it's in Australia. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, do I occasionally wake up middle of the night there? I guess I was up like this game was on at like 1:30 in the morning. Was that at 3 a.m., I believe? This Portugal women's game against the United States of America in the Women's World Cup. The American women needed to win or tie to move on to the knockout round of 16 teams? What'd they start with? 64, Lubie?
32.
64 teams?
32.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, so 32 teams. They're down to 16 now. Knockout round. You lose, you're out. which these last two games have been draws against the Netherlands, who crushed Vietnam like a grape, 7-0. And so they win that group that the United States was in, which also included Portugal and Vietnam. Vietnam, you would have to think was, well, I mean, what did they do? They got shut out like 30-0 overall in the tournament. I think they did 3 games. Did they lose the other one 6-0? So their best game was against the United States. What is up with that? Can we make any interpretations on this? Is the team just not as good as it's been in the past? Did we overestimate how good this team was? I would not be kidding you enough. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I would be able to assess what the talent level of this team is compared to any other previous U.S. team. Lubie has talked about how likable the characters were when the U.S. women's team was first emerging as a popular focus of the country's attention, as they were winning World Cups and FIFA championships and all of that. And they had a very endearing group of characters for the most part. Some exciting players, people that had personality. They became a part of the fabric of American culture, did they not, Mike Lubie Lubitz? Little girls everywhere were lining up and getting all kinds of inspiration from this team, and they seem to play the role very well of being ambassadors not only for the game, but for the good feeling that was taking place as they were making their way and inroads into a game that we previously had absolutely no business being involved in. So that was great. Now, how does this team compare? I mean, was there any thought that, geez, these guys aren't nearly as good as previous U.S. teams? It seemed to me that they were the favorite to win the Women's World Cup. And I was assuming that, they had superior talent. But that doesn't appear to be the case, does it? 0-0 Portugal. And Portugal, actually, did you see this, Louis? They got jobbed. They saw one highlight. They had one. I can hear Win Elliott in my head when Boom Boom Jeffrey was taking a slap shot from the blue line, and the Rangers were down 5-0 with seconds to go in the game. And Win Elliott was so fully invested in the New York Rangers when he was calling the games on the radio. I don't know. Did you ever hear the great Win Elliott? Win Elliott.
I don't know. I know Mel Allen.
He was a New York guy, pretty much. Did Ranger games.
I've heard of him because of you and Goldie and Ian. You guys have talked about him. I've never heard Win Elliott. No.
Win Elliott was great. I mean, it would be funny to go back and hear some of his calls because I remember listening as a kid. I thought, wow, this guy is the shit. He is really, really good at calling hockey. But he was a diehard Ranger fan, and you can hear his fandom coming through. And I remember the Rangers being down. They were down like 5-0. I'm watching a game on a Saturday night as a kid, and it was back in the day of the 6-team league. And I think they had Bernie Jeffrey out there on the blue line, who had been a very famous player with the Montreal Canadiens before he came to the Rangers. Is that the story? Tends to get a little mixed up there when the mind is like, I think back 50 years, Defo. This is more than that. It's like 60 years. And I remember, though, Elliott going nuts because with seconds to go, he fired a shot and it hit the post. And he was like, it hit the post, it hit the post. And he would tear his hair out. And they would, go to a shot of Win Elliott in the booth. And he was absolutely beside himself with grief that the Rangers couldn't break the shutout. He didn't even care. I mean, the game was already out of reach. But he just didn't want, he was dying for the Rangers to stave off the embarrassment of being shut out. And you could hear the clank like it was like going to a high life fronton. You never really had this experience. That might be among the most dreadful sounds in sport. When you would have like Joey Kornblit and he's standing right in front of the wall and all he's got to do is put, a little Dehana job on there, one of those killer babies where they used to call it in Chinese handball, which we played. We called it the atomic baby. I don't know if anybody remembers that shot. And it was a cutter, which I was pretty good at. I was pretty good at the undercut shot, always good at opposite field hitting the ball, the opposite direction there, the old deal where you're going from the left side to the right side, always doing everything inside out, and the atomic baby, man. You would hit one. It was kind of like a rollout in racquetball, but it was done softly. Like a rollout is a hard shot in racquetball. Did you play much indoor racquetball, Libby?
My dad played a lot. I played in my life.
Yeah.
Too much.
Because outdoor racquetball is a joke compared to indoor racquetball. An absolute joke.
Indoor. I don't really know outdoor. I played indoor in college a bunch of times.
Where they got the little corner walls there, and then the ball always ends up going into the lake. And you're thinking, what kind of a stupid-ass game is this? Outdoor racquetball is like dumb, isn't it? Handball is one thing because you can't really hit the ball like 40 miles like you can when you're drilling one of those little handball or squash. What would you call that? The racquetball. The actual would you call it a racquetball? It's a racquetball, right?
I guess. Yeah.
What other kind of ball could it be?
It's the same ball as a racquetball, from what I know.
In handball, you're using the same ball as a racquetball. That's a good question. Or is a handball naturally more dead? Because handball was big in New York. You would see a lot of wild action handball with money on the line too being played. But the atomic baby, what was a killer shot, and you would have Joey Cornblatt literally standing in front of the wall there. All he had to do, they call it a dejada in highlight, a little nothing shot. Everybody else is way back behind the stripe, and all of a sudden you would see him instead rear up and fire one, and you would hear that clank. And it would resonate all throughout the fronton, and you're thinking, "Fuck, he hit the wall." There was a little metal part on the bottom part of the wall there in highlight frontons, on highlight courts, and if you hit that, it just made that hideous,
Right. Yeah.
ugly clank. Such ugliness, man. The sounds heard around the world. So the Portugal team, the Portuguese, hit the post, Lubie. Win Elliott go, it hit the post. It hit the post. Can you imagine? And that's big excitement in a soccer game. You watch 90 minutes of soccer, and the highlight is one shot that went near the goal, actually hit the post and missed. Otherwise,
yeah, this team sucks. They're overwhelming favor. They have been in other years. Like France and England have gotten better, but in their pod, they should kick. The Netherlands is good, but not great. They're supposed to kick this pod's ass. Well, the Netherlands tied them. The Netherlands beat Vietnam the way they were supposed to beat Vietnam, 7-0.
Yeah.
And they're now second in the pod. Yeah, this is a very, very, very disappointing performance. Yeah, that's not the same group that we knew. It's a lot of younger people. The Rodman girl, I don't think she's everything everyone thought she was, but she is.
I don't know. I saw her. I mean, and it gets back to our overall opinion on the sport. I saw her work her way through 6 people with extremely messy athletic maneuvers, and then unfortunately she took a shot that ended up somewhere in the crowd. Yeah, it wasn't a great conversion, but and I guess that's been the problem, right? If we were going to be Seamus McLubitz here,
every game they've done that. I haven't watched anything. I forgot. I thought it was today.
I thought it was tomorrow. Didn't you?
It was today. No,
it said Wednesday at 3 a.m. Didn't it?
I thought it was today. I thought it was like tonight. I thought is when I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it was the opposite. It was.
I don't know that I want to watch it anyway. I guess there's some mild interest in it since we're talking about it.
I mean, I would have, since there was no sports last night, I would have probably, even the Marlins were horrendous. I would have at least put it on in some way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this team, and they may not get out of the pod. Like that's what it is right now.
No, they've moved on to the knockout round. Yeah,
okay.
They're in the second tier, I guess, as the second place team coming out of their group. So they're on the knockout round of 16, and I would imagine that much like in the College Baseball World Series, you're sort of losers bracket at that point. Are you facing a much heavier lineup of power in terms of teams that you're going to have to go against now the rest of the way?
Oh yeah. They've weeded out. Well, I mean, it's women, so there's
but you get the raw end of it in terms of sort of like a seeding thing because you're a second place team.
Being the second, it's worse for you.
Okay, all right. All right, well, let's hope they can pull it together. It doesn't look good. I mean, do we fire the hitting coach? What do we have to do here to get this team on track? Who would it be? Are there assistant coaches of any significance on a soccer team? It seems like there's only one person. Do they even have assistant coaches on soccer teams?
Yeah.
They do? Okay.
A World Cup team. I mean, they have a whole staff, but 4 goals in 3 games. That's pathetic. 4 goals.
Ugly. Yeah, very ugly. 2 draws and a win over Vietnam. Not exactly the kind of stuff that has you doing cartwheels on the beach there as you jump into the water. So anyway, that happened. I didn't even know that was happening. That was bad. And you can't figure it out. Is it because Australia is a day ahead of us?
They're not.
I mean, isn't that the thing when you know that you've got like stage 9 terminal disease or whatever, and you have at best a day to live? Do you jump on a plane and fly to Australia so you have an extra day? How does that work, Libby? You're trying to outrun the Grim Reaper.
It's 12 hours ahead, and I think it's like a 20-something hour flight. So, yeah, that's why it's already a day, and then the 12 hours, it feels like 2 days, probably.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because I thought that game was going to take place at like 3 a.m.
Tonight, yeah.
tonight, which
Yeah,
would
that's
be
what I thought.
tomorrow, which would be yesterday,
Yes.
is what happened. They only play the game to confuse people, right? You have to question your own existence when you watch soccer. You're sitting there watching this crap and saying, "Oh, this is good. Wow, interesting. Wow." The way they do that little triangle there in the middle of the field, and then they kick the ball back to the goalie, and then the goalie looks around for a while, and like half an hour goes off the clock while the goalie's just surveying the field, and then they roll one
Yeah.
right out to the person that's next to him, who's being marked, as they say, or defended by three different people. And you're asking yourself, well, what brought her to that decision? Was that coaching? I'm not sure. So what do we have to do? Do we have to fire the coach? This guy's not getting any heat. I see nothing. Brian Cashman is under more heat than the coach of the U.S. women's soccer team. And I think at this point, this man's name has to come into serious question, does it not? The way that things are going.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know if I'm calling for coaches' heads in women's soccer. I don't.
I'm calling for the coach's head right now. Well, what else do you do in this spot? You're on a sports talk show. You have no idea what the sport is all about. You can't even conceive of why anybody plays it. You know nobody except Megan Rapinoe, who has been doing nothing. I don't know if she played in the game last night, but she was benched for the entire game the game before. She's been around for a couple of dozen World Cups. I think she's older than Joanne Carter, Big Mama, who was playing golf in the 60s. All right, baseball. We did have, you mentioned the Marlins. I don't know, were they horrendous last night? They lost 4-2. Lubie, how bad was that? They were up 2-0 in the game. They were struggling. Their starter, Cabrera, was walking people right and left. It looked like one of the old mouse cartoons. They were mamboing around the bases, even though he didn't give up any runs while he was in there. A couple of his inherited runners came around to score, and that only deadlocked the score at 2-2. The Phillies carve out a couple of runs later in the game. The Marlins unable to respond. Taiwan Walker. Is it Taiwan? Is that how we pronounce it? Taiwan Walker?
Yeah.
I told you, my son does his taxes, or did. I don't know if he's still involved there. I think so. He also, interestingly, and I've told you this before, but now it's official, where he's communicating with a couple of other people that he's been doing financial work for, including John Malkovich.
Oh, wow.
And he always answers the phone whenever Malkovich calls and says, "Pay that man his money."
Oh, he does, and John doesn't hate it.
Malkovich, I think, could be a little weird. I'd be a little reluctant if I was,
I was gonna say, does it really?
I'm looking to become a partner in this firm that's out in California, even though I'm working out of my house in Boca Raton. This is talking about Jesse. And, you start maybe throwing things at the clients that might put them off and have them signing with, Ernst & Young or something instead. You don't want them going elsewhere, do you?
No.
You know who else is, and I think he's going to come on the show. Real big. He texts my son all the time. Jay Glazer became a client.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We've had him on before. He just always does these spots where he's on for like 7 or 8 minutes.
Right, and he's always selling, some newfangled type of bacon that has no fat on it or something.
And he'll answer like 2 questions that you give a shit about, and the rest of it's about whatever the fuck UFC he's teaching or life. Well, no, it's usually like he went through depression and he wants to teach the world to be a better place, which is wonderful, but that's not what we want Jay Glazer on for.
He texts Jesse about virtually anything, any time of the day. It's amazing. Having nothing to do with any of his financial considerations. He, is just sending him all kinds of bizarre messages. Not bizarre, but, stuff that you wouldn't expect necessarily in a client-accountant relationship. And, very casual, very informal. So
money, that guy. So I would definitely get involved with him. He knows how to make money. He's done it in a few different ways.
Yeah. So that works for me. That'd be cool. Maybe we get a relationship going with that.
That'd be wonderful.
That'd be good. I'd rather have Malkovich on, I guess. Right? Wouldn't that be more interesting?
I don't know how. I've seen him in other things, so he's not just the dark guy. But like, how is he? And I've never seen him do an interview of any kind. Like, I don't know how he is.
You really do see Malkovich. Has he done any interviews?
Like, is he fun? Like, because
was he on Inside the Actors Studio ever with James Lipton?
No, I've never seen him just like shoot the shit.
You're rolling Con Air, and then the people stand up. Yeah, Malkovich. Probably the worst movie the guy ever made, right?
I don't think they bring up Con Air.
Con Air. You were up for an Oscar for Con Air.
don't think he was.
All right, you want to dissect this Marlins game? Tommy Hutton was on the broadcast, and we kept thinking maybe there's a chance here. This was a huge ball game last night. I want to, I want to say now. Excuse me, people. I'm belching on my breakfast here. I want to say that you have a three-way tie for the final wild card spot, of which the Marlins are one of the teams that are involved. And what would it be? Would it be the Giants in Arizona? The other two? Is that possible? The Phillies now would have a half-game edge on the Marlins for the wild card spot. And that's one of three wild card spots.
The Marlins are tied with Arizona and Milwaukee. Oh, God,
Milwaukee. Oh, Milwaukee. Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, we've been looking at this all year, though, Lubie. This CBS Sports Line has the projected number of wins for the season. When they do the standings, they have all kinds of stuff in there. What they don't tell you, which is kind of interesting, is how many games are involved in a wild card chase. Wouldn't you have a separate column for that, I would think? Well, any kind of standings? What would be the point of having standings without keeping people informed of what the wild card status was?
On my app, the Yahoo Score app, you can go to playoffs, and it sets up the playoff seating, and it tells you.
Okay, so what? The Giants have one of the wild card spots? Is that how it's going?
Philadelphia are in right now.
Right, and Philly's only got a half-game lead on the Marlins.
Half game up on the Marlins.
And the rest of them.
The Giants have a full game on the Marlins and the Milwaukee. Milwaukee and the Marlins both are 57 and 50. The Giants game 49, and the Philadelphia Phillies are 57 and 49. So look, if the Marlins can win this series, it's a 4-game, right? If the Marlins can tie this series, then I think they come out of it.
They were a half game up before the series started, obviously, since they lost last night. Half game. Yes. Okay, we're figuring this out on the fly here.
I don't know.
It's not fair with my New York Post because this is yesterday's news tomorrow here. It's the old Ontario Daily Report stuff. But very interesting, Lubie. The Mets continue to sell off people. The trade deadline is what, 6 p.m. tonight? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, it's usually like
6 p.m.
4 or 5, but usually it ends up being around.
Usually 4 o'clock. NFL is everything is 4 o'clock, right? That's when Roger Goodell says, hey, time to go play some golf. What does Raj do all day? Cut paper dolls out in his office? Is he like Perry White, the editor of the Daily Planet on the old Superman shows? And don't call me chief. You imagine? I mean, you're just sitting there thinking, how are they paying me $50 million to do this? Exactly. Don't even know. NFL development came back. What do you think about that? If you're Damar Hamlin, would you be scared to death that this might occur again, and that this time it will? Surfers that suffer a shark bite. You'll have some guy, speaking of Australia, some championship surfer, and he gets half of his leg bitten off by a great white. Not just a shark. We're not talking some fucking hammerhead. We're talking a great white comes and goes, nah. Jaws, my friend, Richard Dreyfuss. Let's see if we can go find this beast. And they go right back out. The minute, they don't even have the legs sewn back on you. That looked like a big set coming in. Right back out. Do you have that kind of fortitude, Lubie, where you're just going to jump right back on the horse? What do you think? Would you be playing football again if you were Damar Hamlin?
Look, supposedly...
You'd like to think yes.
Supposedly this was the shark thing is, if you're a fisherman or whatever, they probably still do go back out, but that isn't a 1 in a million kind of thing. I feel like that does happen. So you are, to me, really risking stuff. This thing with Hamlin was supposedly the perfect thing. That was like a 1 in a trillion incident where, like, you needed to have the heartbeat, you needed to have the hit, it needed to be that exact spot. So that's
at that time, yes.
I like that. Maybe the solace where it's not like even doctors are saying, look, you're actually fine. It was a fucking weird
fluke
thing, right, and we're clearing you.
Kind of like my fainting incident there at my
you've done it
son's
twice.
Father's Day barbecue.
You've done it twice now. I don't know if it's a fluke when it happens twice, but for him, it can be fluky. Now, to me, I would call it. Like, I think he's made a decent amount of money, and you would think with all the attention he got, he could get a media gig somewhere making a living. I wouldn't risk it. But again, he's young. He wasn't a star, so it's not like he's made hundreds of millions where he can just tap out. Maybe he can go out there and try and make some more money, and it is supposed
you're thinking it's it's the thing that you've done your whole life. It's like, look, if we've had a negative experience in broadcasting, Does that mean you're never going to go back to it again? You say, hey, you know what? This business sucks. I don't want to try it. Look, we have a lot of fun
Sure.
doing this.
Yep.
Could you find an easier way to make a living than just sitting here and schlubbering about sports your whole life and getting to know great people and have fantastic experiences and get paid to go to ball games and eat for free and all of the stuff that goes along with it? You would want to get back into it, even if you had the most miserable experience possible, which you could say many of those runs at various radio stations always were laced with anxiety. I mean, you had to deal with it, but you always knew that. And I told you this for how many years, Libby? That day will come where out of nowhere, here comes the telephone call. We're going in another direction.
That's literally what happened. Happened that exact way.
The day of maybe our greatest glory, right? I was just thinking, wow, this show is really rocking, man. We were doing great.
Yeah, we're at
People
our
are
best.
loving it. We're at a height in terms of sponsor dollars coming in.
Yep.
Couldn't get any more of a good feeling and a vibe from the people that we get feedback from. And next thing you know, they're calling right after the show. Well, the last word hadn't even hit the airwaves yet. And there's Grace Blazer on the phone, a woman who never spoke to me, about 5 times in 10 years? What'd you say? Is that
Oh,
fair?
yeah. Oh, for you? Yeah. I mean, I talk to her regularly. You never talk to Grease. You had no
I
conversation.
had no reason to because I knew that she hated everything I was doing. She wanted to be more like, let's face it. I mean, you're much better off with like a Brady Quinn type in there, sitting there going, well, you know what? If the Browns can shore up their offensive line, so what? What do we need to discuss with that? Well, we didn't finish off with this Marlins thing. So they lose 4-2. You can't go crazy over one game one way or the other. You have an interesting situation tonight because I heard Tommy yesterday on the broadcast allude to the fact that the Phillies rotation was stacked perfectly for this series.
Mm.
All right, and we know that the Marlins rotation has been a little bit suspect, right? We're not sure about a lot of the guys in the rotation right now where they're at, and unfortunately, you had to hang it up with Perez.
I was going to say, ever since Perez went down, it's funny how they've had major pitching issues.
Yes, and as Cabrera couldn't find a plate with a compass last night, as he walked 6 in 3+ and only allowed a couple of hits. And actually, while he was in there, didn't allow any runs. There was inherited runners that scored that knotted up the game at 2-2. That guy Okert came in, and he's borderline Dylan Floro for me. Okert, you see him come in with some decent efforts, and then it seems like okay, you need a guy to come in, get 3 away with runners on second and third, nobody out. Not the easiest of things to do. Maybe you allow 1 run to score. Unfortunately, boom. First guy up drills a double down the left field line, 2-run score, and they did a decent job to stave off having the Phillies take the lead right then and there. Are the Phillies a better team than the Marlins, Libby? What would you say to that?
I mean, heading into the year, obviously, they actually have players most people had heard of. As this season has gone on, I would say no. I like up until recently, I like the Marlins rotation and bullpen better. The problem is the bullpen shit the bed, so they brought in Robertson, they brought in the other guy. They're hoping to figure that one out. The rotation has gone to shit. Garrett was a guy you should have been waiting for him to suck, and he eventually did. Perez was pitching well. He had the one bad outing, but was pitching really strong. You sent him down because God forbid he goes over your.
Well, you know what? That made some sense though. The guy had never thrown more than like 75 innings or something in a season, and he's what 19, 20 years old. So, I mean, do you want to have him throw like 150 innings? Oh, only Steven Strasburg.
Yeah, you don't want to ruin him.
What are we talking about here?
With this team, you don't contend very often. So to me, to be in a
it would have been nice if you could have nursed him, but discretion is not the better part of valor. What do you think, Libby?
It is, but we'll see. I mean, the Mets have twice done it where they've been cautious with young pitchers, and they still got hurt. Like guys are going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt. It's fucking pitching. I mean. I'm all for this babying bullshit because numbers dictate this and that. We still see pitchers getting hurt every year. The same guys getting hurt every year, no matter how much you baby them. I mean, so send them down. Okay. They did it with Strasburg. It ruined a playoff run for them. Eventually, they did come back and win a World Series of Nationals. But it's not like Strasburg went on to be this fucking Hall of Famer.
Well, he always had issues. Didn't he have 2 Tommy Johns?
Always got hurt. So babying him or not, he got hurt. Like,
yeah.
To me, when you're in a – look – Sarni gave me crap for wanting to go after all this, and I don't even know names of players to go after because it's like, who are they going to get? To me, when you're a team that doesn't challenge ever and you finally have a chance to challenge,
Oh,
go,
you should take advantage
go
of it.
for it.
They're attempting to in their own way. I mean, they picked up the two relievers, Lopez and Robertson. Robertson was a somewhat significant pickup, was he not? You had AJ Puke, who was coughing it up every time he came in there as a closer. He's in there in the sixth inning now, and came on last night. Actually, did a pretty good job. So he kept the Phillies in check. I think he went 1-2-3 and might have even struck out a couple of guys. So that was good. They just it's interesting, right? And like I've said before, I normally am appalled by the idea of expanding playoffs and the postseason and adding more teams. It seems to really water down the whole idea of the regular season having any importance, and then you're bastardizing your playoffs, giving so many teams a shot. You usually have a first round that results in mismatches and ugliness, where teams that have no business they get in there with an 8-9 record in the NFL, and they get trounced in the opening round of the playoffs, and you're thinking, "Hey, what a waste of time that was."
Yeah.
But in baseball, I mean, it's created a lot of excitement for the regular season, and it's really increased the significance of winning the division. So, you have teams coming down, even though they've been cruising, still with, matters of significance in terms of the standings late into August and September. Even teams, especially in some of these races where you're looking at the American League East, all five teams are involved in something, right? You have a tight race at the top there with the Orioles and the Rays, and then the other three teams are all very much alive for postseason play, including the Yankees. Although Brian Cashman, is this it? Is the love affair finally over after 25 years?
Yeah, it feels like this is the year for him and Aaron.
It has to be, great to work for the kids of George, right? As compared to George himself.
Oh, he wouldn't. Yeah, the funny thing is, they're still only 3.5 out of the wild card, and
Yeah.
Judge is working himself back in. So you never know; they could make a run and get in. But where they stand in their division, that is not something that they're very happy about in Yankee land.
Cashman, they have a picture of him on the phone here, on a cell phone. Do you think he's talking about a trade, or is he on the phone with Lisa Meanwell? Why can't I let that go? So what if he had an affair with a freak at a soccer game? Crazy. Shows you not to stray too far from the nest sometimes. It's not as beneficial as you might think. It is exciting at the time. All right, so we have the trade deadline today. Ohtani staying, Arenado staying. The Red Sox are going to keep this guy, Alex Verdugo, who has been a very popular name mentioned in various trade conversations and theories. Josh Hader, apparently going to stay with San Diego. If you were San Diego, I mean, are you snookered at this point as San Diego?
Yeah.
They got all these guys, high-priced guys. They really made the move, and everybody was impressed with it. Everybody was impressed with the New York Mets and all the moves they made in the offseason. And what did it result in? A total pile of shit. And we were condemning Kim Ng and saying, well, cosmetic moves.
Well, look, and that's what people like Sarnia will say. Look at the Mets, look at the Padres. Just going all in does not mean you'll win.
Yeah.
I get it. But if I was a Padre fan and I know Met fans are bitching, I'd rather you at least try. Like, I'd rather you at least try and then say, all right, screw it. We'll start over again next year. Than stand pat. And I know the Marlins haven't. They went and got two relievers. They are shopping the market for a bat. It's not that easy to go and get the next MVP.
Who's there? I guess, there was all this talk about Cody Bellinger. Did he end up signing somewhere? I haven't seen anything about him.
They're keeping him. The Cubs are actually aren't that far out. Cubs are only like a game behind the Marlins. So, like, I get it's not that easy to do, and that's fine. And you don't want to mortgage your future for some move in the middle of the season, especially if it doesn't lead you anywhere. But I just don't want them standing pat. I don't want the same old shit where,
They seem more likely to fade. I would agree with you.
That's my point.
Is that because we're used to that, or that we still haven't accepted that they actually are having? I mean, they're having an excellent season by any standard. They played 19 consecutive games beginning last night against either division leaders or wild card contenders, and that's why the projection. I mentioned this several times throughout the season. I've been shocked, almost appalled, to see the very low expected final figure of wins for the Marlins projected by these guys, whoever does the computations there for CBS Sportsline. I'm sure it involves a lot of analytics. I think they even dug up like Bill James. James is dead, right? Bill James. Checked out probably, a long time ago?
I don't think he's dead.
Baseball Abstract.
I know
You
who
think
he
he's
is.
alive? Bill
I
James?
think he's alive. Was
Check
that
that out before we pronounce him dead on arrival. Bill James. But
73? Your age.
he's only 72.
Yeah, he's 73. Sorry, he's a year old. He's
Oh,
literally.
Pee Wee Herman, by the way, 70.
Oh
Wow,
no,
sad.
70. Oof.
People hated to see that. There were a couple of incidents there. Isn't it amazing? Like your one bout with infamy.
And it was years
I
ago.
guess it wasn't pretty. There was possible child pornography involved.
No, I don't know if it was a child. I thought he just got popped for.
Got popped for like jerking off in a movie theater
Yeah,
somewhere.
I don't know if he had anything. Which that's the thing is, I don't think.
I read something. Naturally they had to, pop this up here in the tribute to him, and display the negative side. But it said there was an implication the charges were dropped, that he might have had some photographs that would have been considered less than flattering to have in your collection.
I'm not going to hold that against him. Like, if put it this way, if there's real shit, they don't just drop them. So if they're going to drop it, it was like the Birdman got popped for some bullshit, and he actually did nothing wrong. It was someone framing him and fucking him. So,
Yeah. How about Richard Jewell, man? Yeah, I mean, the guy's life was ruined there. He did nothing.
One of those theaters that is meant for that, and you're supposed. And I don't
know if it's meant for that, right?
In my day, you didn't have.
Have you ever gone to a Triple X movie theater with the intention of jerking off, Lubie?
I didn't know they existed, so I thought that was like a 60s or a 70s thing.
We used to go to the Civic Follies in Syracuse just for fun, just to make observations.
Understood watching porn with other dudes, and then you're not even able to satisfy yourself. So I don't understand the point of it. But him getting popped for that, and that was still years ago. That was like in the 90s. And since then, he's worked. Yeah. He's been involved in things as a straight guy, not a zany Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens. And he's had no issues. So to me, it sucks that it was one thing that was but he didn't hurt anyone. It wasn't the most criminal of acts, and he didn't do anything from what I know since. So it sort of sucks that is what, when he passed, everyone, the world was doing the nice thing, saying Pee Wee Herman. My first thought was, wasn't that the guy that fucked around?
That's, unfortunately, the lasting image that you have of the guy. Which, if you think about it, the guy was really a comedic genius. Not that comic geniuses haven't been known to have their sick and dark sides also. Yeah. Well, we know that of many, they haven't necessarily manifested themselves in this fashion. But in general, it seemed like his passing was met with, a lot of gratitude and heartfelt feelings of thanks for all of the entertainment that he provided, especially, oddly, for little kids. You think Mr. Rogers had a little bit of a dark side? What do you think?
Oh, Fred Rogers, I don't know. Nothing has come out, but it's why I'm weird about.
You think he was jerking off under that sweater? What do you?
It's why I'm weird with Tebow, because no one's perfect. To me, you would think something happened in there somewhere, but from what we know, no. Fred Rogers was actually almost saintly.
You don't see a whole lot of dirt being dug up on old Fred. Very strange, though. He always kind of spooked me a little bit. I know the show was lauded as being one of the great television shows for kids of all time, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but I felt a little squeamish about the guy when I was a kid.
Good. Yeah, it was creepy. He was way too nice. That's always creepy.
It was just the tone of the show. It was very flat, wasn't it?
It was just very...
There wasn't a lot of buzz going on in the background. I'd much rather watch a ball game and hear Mel Allen call a Mickey Mantle home run than watch Mr. Rogers sit there and go, "Okay, kids."
Yeah, it was very bland. Everything was
boring as shit.
It was the opposite. Pee Wee Herman's show was yelling and screaming and fucking flashing.
Wild, yeah.
And if you said a word out of nowhere that you didn't know the word, they went crazy. Like, I guess that was...
It was just so goofy that
all over the place.
It was interesting in that regard. I mean, when you're watching the highlights of it, you have to figure, okay, this wasn't this guy's normal personality, was it? I mean, it was an act.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he went on to act in other things.
Yeah.
He was usually like a mob guy.
Derek Farrell in the movie Blow with Johnny Depp, man.
Yep.
He was good in that. All right, we're coming back with more. Jason Cole is scheduled to join us again today. We couldn't connect yesterday, but he says he's going to be with us about 8:30 this morning. So we'll get into some of the NFL stuff that's going on. So what did we decide about Damar Hamlin? If you were Damar Hamlin, would you come back and attempt to play in the NFL based on the idea? And he said, that there was some trepidation on his part, that it wasn't as if he went through this practice yesterday with the Buffalo Bills, first-time contact pads and all of that. It wasn't as if, he went through it without any thought whatsoever of fearing of a reprisal of this incident. which, like you said, it was like 1 in a million. And, God forbid anything like that should ever happen again. But would you do that as an individual, or would you steer yourself in another direction at that
I
point?
100% wouldn't do it. But I can see these guys that worked really hard. Hamlin finally got to a place where he, I think, was a starter and was actually a pretty important part of a team that's playing for a Super Bowl. To work that hard to just give it up. I don't see him just giving it up, but yeah, it makes sense that he is has a little trepidation because he died. Like, remember, he nearly flatlined.
This guy was done. Yeah,
he had a cardiac arrest, just like Bronny, and they had to bring him back. Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, I'm sorry.
Imagine that. I mean, and you're thinking the equipment man and the trainer go running out there. It's not like they're Zachariah, some top cardiologist there at Holy Cross, to be able to react as they did. I mean, think about that. That was tremendous, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
Well, what a lucky a thing for Hamlin and the NFL. I mean, that would have been an unbelievable pall cast upon the National Football League, because you've been thinking for years that eventually somebody is going to check out on an NFL playing field. Sad as it is to say, because of the nature of the violence of the game. Now, in this case, it was involving a fluke medical condition, but nonetheless, I mean, do you not fear that at some point something like that is going to happen with a head-to-head hit, or any of the other, extreme violence that we condone and sanction, because after all, we love our football.
I mean, they choose to do it, so that's why I don't mind watching it. But yes, you've said it for years. The players are bigger, stronger, faster, playing a game made for people that were not big, strong, and fast.
Right. I mean, Gino Capelletti was running around the end there, and some guy that weighed 170 was trying to tackle him, and he was considered to be a monster.
Yes, like the size these guys are, they're double the size and they're faster.
Yes, and massively stronger also.
The stronger.
Based on, do they check for steroids anymore in the National Football League, or is that just widely accepted that everybody's on the juice there? How did Ray Lewis go from 190 pounds to 270 of solid muscle and retain all of his athleticism at the same time? How was that possible, Lubie?
Great question.
You see The Rock today? I mean, have you seen any clips of The Rock?
Those guys are, look, if you're acting, that's on you. I mean, I guess steroids in a sense are illegal, so it's illegal, but movies aren't going to ban you. Like, they're not testing for steroids. If you're in wrestling or a bodybuilder or an actor, you being on roids, it's your choice. Like,
yeah. All right, I got to turn that alarm off there. I have this Tuesday alarm goes off twice on my phone, and I haven't been able to figure out how to get rid of it.
It's going to be alarm.
And I usually have the phone with me, but it's sitting in a basket like a half a mile away here. Plus, we've been schlubbering for an hour about virtually nothing. Again, nothing yesterday. Portugal, USA. What a thriller in Manila. Unbelievable. I don't know how I can live with myself because I missed it. All right, we'll come back with more here on the Defo Show. Jason Cole on the National Football League give us a nice little overview going into the first week of what would be, a series of exciting preseason games, no?
Yes.
Those games have really been rendered beyond meaningless, have they not? We always try to attach meaning and ascribe meaning to and assign meaning to these preseason games, some sort of meaning. Like the first game, we want to see a little bit of this. Second game, we want to see a little bit of that. Third game, whoa, here it is, Lubie. The big one, the dress rehearsal. This is where you game plan. Remember, that was always the big thing. Well, we game plan for them on this one.
I mean, it never was as important as they wanted it to be, but at least gave you at least a half of football where you felt like it was football. Now the entire preseason, they don't play any of the real guys.
I mean, and the fourth game was Scribini ball, but it had a level of interest because the 53-man roster and cuts, and some guy makes a couple of tackles, he might make the team. Yes. So you had some focus that you could embrace when you were watching preseason football. Now, I don't even know. I wouldn't know when the games are, right? You have the Hall of Fame game, then what, a week off before the next one, or are people in action?
The next week. It's just not that weekend. The next week you'll have preseason.
Oh, Jesus. And who do the Dolphins play? They play 3 preseason games now. Do we have any idea? They're playing one in Europe, Mexico?
Falcons. They play the Falcons.
Okay.
First Friday night. Then they play the Texans, sizzling.
Woo.
They play the Jaguars. The Jaguars, who, again, they're a young team, so they may play some of their guys, but you presume Lawrence and Etienne aren't going to play. Like they're not going to.
No, we'll be seeing nothing in that game. All right, so essentially, you can't wait for the preseason to be over. It hasn't even started yet, and we've already condemned it as being the worst. But it is. I mean, it used to have some kind of buzz to it.
100%.
Where now, I mean, it's Buzz Bissinger, man. It's right out the door here.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Nobody could focus in on anything or find anything out or cipher anything about their team. What could you possibly tell from watching preseason football?
Was going to be a Hall of Famer after last year's preseason. Like, and the guy is fine. He was fine for a 7th round pick, but he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL, let alone star. Yes, people will do something with it. They always do. They will over excite.
Let's make some serious wagers in the preseason. I say we get a bankroll together of, even if it's an imaginary 5-dime bankroll, we bet it in the preseason, see how we do, Levine. What do you think?
Both Ken and the professor, both the professor and the Greek do bet on preseason. So
yes.
Totally out
the Greek bets it faithfully with confidence. It's insane. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:03.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
The great Lawrence Taylor with us here at 940 Wins, 1230 The Zone. Your relationship with Parcells.
We've always been friends from the first time I met him in the University of North Carolina. And Bill was a great guy because he would get on the bus. We'd get on the bus on Sunday. Getting ready to play the game. We get on the bus and he'll go through his roll call. He look down that roll. He say, LT, you here? And I would say, yeah, coach, I'm here. He would say, okay, bus driver, let's go. We got enough to win.
That's great. From South Florida to the entire world, here is Defo joined by Lubie on the Defo Show.
You would not be a fool if you were inclined to believe that was some gratuitous radio laughter in the background there because it was LT. But the truth was, and I forget exactly, what do we have? We had like 3 Hall of Fame all-time great running backs standing behind what was
an all-time great.
The bus there. Was he leaning in on that conversation?
No.
Jerome Bettis?
Jerome Bettis on. And
okay.
Ronnie Brown, Melvin Gordon, and I think Eddie George came over when we had Jerome Bettis on.
Oh, that was with Bettis.
When we had LT on, the whole room was there because LT's never done Radio Row.
Yeah.
And if he's ever done anything around the Super Bowl itself, he does it only on the big networks where he doesn't even come in that room.
Yeah, he's coming in a schmenky radio booth there where we were. Yeah.
We had done at that point, that was our last one. We had done 10 or 11,
yes.
And I've never seen LT. And
I don't know that I had either. I had done many radio rows prior to our combining to put together this fabulous show.
Getting him on was a big thing. And then on top of that, people didn't know what he was going to be because he can be a little...
He can be moody, yeah. He doesn't want to answer any questions.
So we were literally prepped about... We were his first. It was like a whole thing. And then... we were prepped to be weary. And then he came on and was he was a night show host. He just took over We didn't even really have to do
Yeah,
anything.
we could have had Conan O'Brien on, and he couldn't have been any more,
He
outgoing.
was just great. Like
Yeah.
he was telling stories. She's like, don't bring up Parcells. Don't bring up cocaine. Don't bring up this. Don't bring up that. He brought up all of them
Right,
himself.
right.
We're like,
I
okay.
think he even broke out a little bag and started
That's exactly.
passing out lines to the guys who were watching. That's kind of a good feeling, right? When you feel like you're at the center of stuff. I know we didn't get much credit for it. You mentioned Grace Blazer. You would think that they immediately that you would have received some kind of a text saying, "How the fuck did you guys pull that off, man?" I don't even see this guy on CBS this morning.
Never.
And you're there at 940 Wins, a radio station of little significance in the sporting spectrum here. And you got Lawrence Taylor on. And the truth was, virtually, there had to be 20 people and crammed into a small area, just leaning in there in that conversation.
There was like 30 to 40 people hovering around us because it was not that you had Lawrence Taylor. He was hysterical. Like he was really funny. Like
he was great. Yeah, it didn't take much to, we were laughing naturally.
No, he was funny.
But it wasn't like a Billy Bush thing, where we were just laughing. Yeah, Danny, that's funny. You grab him by the pussy, huh?
No, he caught us off guard because he was hysterical. And,
yes.
And we were supposed to be on like a 5-10 minute time limit. He's supposed to not want to do these things. He's supposed to I think we did like 20 to 30 minutes. He just kept going. And we're like, okay, if Lawrence Taylor wants to just keep going, we're not going to haul him in.
We were more than willing to roll with it at the time.
He was
got a lot of mileage out of that clip too, and it was. it was funny. I mean, the way he portrayed everything, it was absolutely great. So, and then he went on to do whatever other interviews he did. But I think because we had him first there, we might have really broken the bank.
Yep.
In terms of Lawrence Taylor material. I mean, and that would get you in the mood for a little bit of football. I'm confused about a few things here going into the season, Lubie. So as long as we're on the periphery here, and we're going to have Jason Cole try and decipher a few things of significance. And Jason really does shrug off. I mean, you talk about a guy that shrugs off the preseason. That would be Jason Cole, who now tells us, and I think he's right about this, you degenerate slimeballs out there that are salivating, waiting to punch it up on the first couple of games of the regular season. Jason Cole's theory, which he's reiterated a couple of times here on the show the last few years, since all of these changes took place in the National Football League and their approach to preseason and practices and limiting the physicality of it. I mean, do you see anybody doing the old Jimmy Johnson middle drill in preseason? Which essentially, I don't know, where did he get that from, Jimmy? That was like the Oklahoma middle drill, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming its origins were with the Oklahoma Sooners. Is that where it got on? It's certainly not the Oklahoma Outlaws.
Probably a Switzer thing.
Switzer, okay.
Probably from Oklahoma's heyday, I would think.
Because it reeked of everything that was wrong with the hazing that was being done by the FAMU band, which resulted... unfortunately, tragically, in a young man's death, right? The last go-round of that, where they, have the tuba player, the overweight tuba player gets on the bus, and he's got to go from the front of the bus out the back door while having his rear end and body pummeled by a guy's with trombones. So what are they using? The sticks, wood?
I don't know.
How do you not know this is going on if you're the leader? I mean, you're the band leader at, Florida. What is it? Agriculture and Mining?
Yes. Mechanics. Florida Agricultural and Mechanics University. The M's usually
and mechanics?
I think that's what it is usually. Yeah. It's not
is there any agriculture and mining? What mining is going on in Florida? I mean, the minute you dig you take a little plastic shovel for your grandson and stick it in the sand like miles from the water, and you've already struck water. No, how much mining could be done here? Or am I way off on that? Is there a lot of mining being done in the state of Florida?
It's not mining. I think it's
what does FAMU stand for?
Florida Agriculture and Mechanics. I think that's really what it stands for.
Well, they didn't stand for much when they were not standing up for these poor schmucks that were in the band, huh? I mean, imagine this. You're wearing a stupid cap.
Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University.
That's a weird combination, isn't it?
Well, TAMU, it's all the same. All the A&Ms, that's what that stands for.
I thought there was agriculture and mining, right? Like Texas A&M.
They're not mining, it's mechanical. It's all
mechanical,
like science.
I've been wrong about this my entire life, Lubie. So how am I going to comment on college football?
I don't know.
Which I'm a blank canvas on this college football season. Are you? I mean, you always have more insight into it than I normally would figure, and you surprise me sometimes with how you're paying attention to this stuff, which it's not like I'm not. We're going to be betting games, offering selections on games, offering opinions on teams and coaches and all of this stuff. And my confusion starts, I guess, right here in town with what should we expect, and what do you think is going to happen? You're extremely mid level on your expectations for the University of Miami.
Yes, that's true.
No, and this is not, tainted by your FSU bias or your hatred of the Gators or any of that other stuff that would normally enter into it. And I was underwhelmed. I'm a fan of Mario Cristobal. He was always a good guy. You claim that when you call down to the SID's office, they go, "Oh yeah, he knows Defo," which is great because I haven't seen a guy probably in when did he play here? 30 years ago?
80s, late 80s.
Yeah. And he was very approachable, like most offensive linemen, right? Where are you going for your quotes? The kicker and the offensive lineman, because the quarterbacks on the college level, the quarterback is usually very available. No, you can always get something from the quarterback contingent. In fact, back in the day when Brian Forte was competing with Gino Torretta, remember that? Were you around unaware of college football then? That was what, 90s with.
It was late 80s, early 90s. I don't know that. I was very young during those days.
Who was coaching? That was Erickson. Decided on Torretta over Peter Forte. Or Brian Forte was the quarterback. Yes. Peter Forte was his father. And I'll never forget this. His father was always had those weird blue sneakers on with a pair of brown pants. And it was kind of like, with Danny Garcia, where his father, Angel Garcia, is the guy that everybody talks to because he's always making maniacal and bold statements. Yeah, my son is going to beat the shit out of you and your children. Like, okay, Angel, calm down. I haven't seen you throw a single punch yet. And then the kid couldn't be any more mild-mannered. And Brian Forte seemed like a pretty, mild-mannered, and well-mannered individual. And his father was always making statements about how Gino Torretta sucked. And he would be holding press conferences, so we got a lot of quotes from him. But in general, you're going what? Offensive line, kicker. If you're desperate for some sound and you only have a few minutes in the locker room after the game and you've got to run back to the station and pop something up, well, you know what? Here's what he had to say about the ballgame. And it's some offensive lineman that was knocked out in the second quarter. Yeah, we gave it everything we had. The coach came up with a great game plan. We just weren't able to execute a few spots there. We'll clean that up, and we'll be back next week, and we'll try and knock the shit out of Notre Dame. Okay, thank you. I got what I needed. I think I'll write that in quotes. We'll beat the shit out of Notre Dame. All right, so what do we think? I was underwhelmed. I thought this, that you can't take a Heisman Trophy quarterback and throw him back light years in terms, never mind progress, never mind that he leveled off, never mind stagnation. You actually took a guy that you thought had marvelous potential and under your coaching leadership turned him into trash. Now, it could be that the kid just lost it. That's possible. So maybe the coach bore none of the responsibility for that. But I do think that, when the team regresses and, you can point to, oh, well, we didn't have the talent that we were looking for, not the kind of players that I want to have on this roster. And then there have been changes, right? For like 40 some odd new players coming in.
The roster. Yeah. I mean, look, it's a work in progress. The problem is the expectations of last year, and Cristobal tried to quench them, but he didn't try to quench them in the beginning. He tried to quench them in the middle. It was like, dude, you were all about the fucking bullshit expectations.
Yes.
That there was no shot.
Wasn't he like overwhelmingly optimistic? I mean, yes, look, no coach is going to come in and say, hey, listen, we're going to blow for a couple of years.
But Norvell came in and said it's going to be a work in progress. He said, look, we should have high expectations here at Florida State. We should, there's a standard here at Florida State, but it's going to take time. We have to work on the culture and all that other shit. But he said things like that. I was like, all right, at least this guy's being honest. Like it is what it is. Cristobal didn't do that. Cristobal came in and did the rah-rah bullshit.
Yeah. I thought they were going to be pretty good. I really did.
When they started and struggled because his philosophy is totally different than the philosophy prior to him. So it was going to butt heads and the talent wasn't going to work. So obviously they weren't going to be good. Then he was like, well, it's going to take time. Da, 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 da. It's like, dude, you weren't doing this 2 months ago. Like you set up false expectations. Now when the world is crashing down around you, you're like, oh yeah, that was my problem with Cristobal. Like he doesn't assume responsibility. Like, and that's why people like Norvell. He's very honest. He's honest to a fucking fault.
A lot of bonehead plays and calls that were suspect also.
His coaching sucks. Like,
yes.
It's what they look at Rose Bowls and this and that with Oregon because he did recruit. He was the first guy that I guess
he had great players
recruiting where he recruited really well, recruiting the top 10 to top 5 every year. And he did less with more. Like he literally almost ruined Justin. No one knew how good Justin Herbert was because of Cristobal. He wanted to do this running fucking offense when he had a guy with a Hollister back there. And he literally held Justin Herbert down. Like the dude is not a good coach.
He might be a Dolphin if it wasn't for Cristobal, is what you're saying.
I don't know. I just know that he is.
Tell the truth, too, Lubie. How much better would you feel going into this season if Justin Herbert was your quarterback instead of Tua?
Justin Herbert's had the same talent with the Chargers and hasn't gone any farther. I'm not sold on Herbert like everyone else is.
But he just looks the part, my friend.
Yeah, but I don't give a shit about the looks of the part. All right. Who cares about that? I think he's a talented
quarterback. You'd rather have a little Tua running around trying to avoid getting hit again.
We'll see. They both have a lot of talent right now. We'll see who's better. Right now, Herbert's had a better career. You'd have to be a moron not to say that. But I don't think people put Herbert and Burrow in the same class. They're not. Like
Burrow's more accomplished, no question.
Well, it's just Burrow's able to make more out of less. Like Herbert doesn't. Herbert sucks in the fourth quarters, and Herbert finds ways to make bad plays at the really bad time, the really big times.
And yet there are times I've seen Herbert, just drill. There was one drive I remember, I guess it was a Monday night game or something, and he rallies the Chargers back and drills a shot between two defenders for a touchdown with his receiver well covered at the goal line with seconds to go in the game, and you're thinking, wow, not too many quarterbacks can do that, my friend. You don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that, Michael. What do you think? I don't know. I would feel more comfortable with Herbert at quarterback here. By leaps and bounds. He may not be brilliant yet, but Tua is too suspect, and so that bothers me a little bit. So he was held back, you're saying, by Mario Cristobal. Otherwise, he might be a Dolphin. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
I don't know.
We'd be saying, good luck, Chargers, with that fragile Tua Tagovailoa.
Probably.
Hope he can stay together for the season because we really like the kid.
Yes, if he was on the Dolphins, I would be all about Herbert.
You'd be thinking Super Bowl. What are you talking about?
I am thinking Super Bowl. I'm thinking Super Bowl still.
Herbert throwing to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and all of these other guys?
I don't know. He's had plenty. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are pretty good. His talent hasn't been, and Eckler's turned into a Pro Bowl running back. So he's had plenty of talent. Talent's not his issue. All right. He doesn't finish games.
I don't want to get you too overwhelmed.
Anyways, Cristobal, look, he's still a young-ish. He's in his 50s, so he's a young-ish coach. He could still learn things, and maybe he could be better, sure. But his game day decision-making sucked at Oregon.
Yeah, very suspect last year. Wow. Stuff that you looked at it and said, my God, no coach in his right mind makes this call.
Well, my problem is, and it's why when the world was giving FSU shit for getting rid of Willie Taggart before 2 full seasons, I didn't have an issue because I watched every game and I saw a team that actually somehow got worse as the year went on.
Taggart he got popular at the University of South Florida, right? That was his big claim to fame.
Yes.
And we've seen it many, many times. We've fallen for it here at the University of Miami, where you fall in love with a guy that has success with a smallish program, and you're thinking, oh wow, it'll be easy to make that transition, and yet he was able to bring none of that, that he had going at South Florida to Tallahassee or even to Boca Raton when he was at FAU. There was no great spark to that team. I'm hoping this Tom Herman, can bring it back to Lane Kiffin type of dimensions.
Yeah. So he. But my thing was, and it's why I was like, even 2 years, you could see they weren't improving. That was my problem with Cristobal. Like the beginning of the year, they actually had it out with A&M at Texas A&M. Yeah, A&M ended not being good either.
Yeah.
They at least were in games early on in the season. It's like, okay, by the end of the year, they may be interesting. It was the opposite. By the end of the year, they were a fucking disaster.
It was ugly.
Throttled. And it was like, as an FSU fan, I didn't see us beating them 45-3. Like, what the fuck?
What
And
an
they're
embarrassment.
seeing them,
Exactly. Yeah. It's
like,
supposed to be the big rivalry game, and
it was
everybody's
weird.
into it. And the kids were beating up on each other since Pop Warner.
Yeah, we were Middle Tennessee beats them by 2 touchdowns in their stadium. It was like, I don't know, man. So that was
Horrendous. I mean, there was some. You would have to say. I mean, that there's no way that the talent was that bad that these coaches didn't have something to do with fucking them up. No, because I mean, look, you had Manny Diaz was doing better with the same guys.
Well, yeah, 100%. And so that's the thing is, I'm not gonna hold it against him because he didn't have his guys and this and that. But my issue wasn't the wins and losses. I didn't think they'd win more than 5 or 6 games. It was how they looked as the season went on. They did not get more disciplined. The play calling, and now he's fired the offensive coordinator. Yeah, but him bringing in that guy was a big deal. They paid him a shitload of money from Michigan,
Right.
and you handpicked him, and then he sucks, so you fire him. That's fine. I'm glad you're accountable in that regard. You're not just pulling let's keep Joe Philbin an extra 2 years, even though we know he sucks. But it still goes on you.
Imagine if they had given Philbin a contract extension at some point. That would have been great. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you 100%. A very likable guy. That seems to express all the right things. Mario Cristobal, a lot of virtue about how the program's going to be run and come back, and had success on the field at Oregon, but had monster players also. Possibly, the book on him might be that brilliant recruiter and very, very, good at accruing talent. And that's a whole new ball game now with the name, image, and likeness. But still having success. I mean, there've been nothing but raves about all of these guys that he keeps landing, not just for this upcoming, freshman class, but even the next 1 or 2 down the road. So, I mean, is that encouraging? But game day coaching, would you rather have a guy, a big time recruiter, or a guy that can actually coach on game day? What do you think?
I want both.
No, but if you had to choose one, yes, it's better to have talent. But if a guy's not going to be able to do anything with it, because you're right. I mean, if you go back, it's hard to cite all the specifics, but I remember watching some games last year, and being stunned at some of the moves that were made. Stunned. And I watched a lot of football, and it was very exciting when they were overwhelming in terms of the talent disparity between them and most of the teams they played. And then when they were in there with the so-called big boys, they had the bravado and the kind of approach that made you think, you know what, you're going to have to adjust to us. This isn't going to be something where we come in with some mealy-mouthed patsy. We're going to come in here to try to hammer you right out of the ball game right away, which, they did. Big-time offense. With those Hurricane teams, that's what made them exciting. But you didn't see any of that, developing or, even in possibility here with Cristobal. And then I forget what game I was watching. It was against some scrub team, and they barely eked out a win somehow in overtime. Do you remember this game? And it was a low-scoring game. Might have been like Duke or somebody like that.
Clearly. I'm trying to remember the team. Was it Toledo or something like that? Where
it was just a pathetic, situation to be caught up in, because there's no way you should have been in a tight race here to win this ball game. And they pulled it out in the end, and it was like, oh, wow. I mean, the Hurricanes won. And you were thinking that was, awful to see. And some of the coaching decisions I remember down the stretch in that ball game were confounding. I mean, just absolutely mind-boggling in terms of how baffling they were.
Virginia was like a 2-win team or a 3-win team.
Right.
A horrible
that was
team
the game, yeah.
At home, and they beat them 14-12.
It was such ugliness, as we said.
Couldn't score. Like, they kept they were like going for it instead of kicking field goals, and then they couldn't get like 4th and 1s and like 3.
Nothing, yeah.
And it was like, dude, what is good? And this Virginia team sucks.
and after you're beating each other, well, we did it our way. Okay, great. Unbelievable. I mean, it would be like comparing Ron Popeil to Einstein. I mean,
it's year 2. He's gonna have more of his guys. To me, it's not even a winning loss thing again this year. Like I could see them winning 8 games, possibly whatever. But to me, it's about how they look. Like, are they in these games? Are they competitive? At the end of the year, are they better than they were at the beginning? We'll see.
If we get them on, do we just do the usual? Hey, Mario, man, great job last year, man. It was nice to see. I tell you what, if you weren't stuck with all those stiffs from Manny Diaz, what a season you had as a head coach.
I mean, probably.
Do we do that? I mean, will we lose all credibility, or do we come on and go, hey, there was a series there against Virginia that was so baffling.
But I would do more.
We're
of
still
that.
trying to figure out what the fuck were you thinking, Mario Cristobal, at the time.
I would say it was a tough year one. We know you've done a lot of roster turnover. Too. Like, what have you noticed?
How much sugar would you put on the coating there, Lubie?
I mean, you know me. I'm not hard hitting, but I'll ask. I'm curious. Look, it was a tough year one. He can't deny it. I mean, I'm sure he's very honest. I would hope he's honest about it.
All right. Well, let's see if we can get him on the show one time this year. That'd be nice.
I always
Mike McIntyre, he's been good. FIU, of course, he has to sell a program here, and we would imagine Tom Herman's going to become a big-time friend of the show, just based on our original meeting and conversation that we had with him at Talia's Tuscan Kitchen. And we're going back there, right? Supposedly for a little Dusty May action sometime in the near future.
Yes, hopefully at the end of August. We're going to do that.
All right, sounds good. All right, Jason Cole, we'll get an authority on the National Football League. We'll try to dive into some serious football talk here with Jason Cole. And, of course, he's with Outkick.com now. That's where you'll find his work. And is a monster, right? The Twitter thing is the big thing with all of these guys, isn't it? You have to be tweeting constantly if you're an NFL insider.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. Do people even read your articles anymore, or they just follow everything on Twitter? Is that the way that goes? I'm so out of touch, Lubie. It's a joke, man. I still think AM radio is making a comeback.
Yeah, it's not happening.
No? Somebody was asking me yesterday, hey, why don't you get back in the radio, man? I'm like, I don't know, man. Where?
And I love the Greek who's like, it's going nowhere. It is. I love you, Greek. I mean, radio isn't the idea of radio is going nowhere. Turning on an AM, most cars literally aren't built with AM.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a lie.
It's a shame, too, because I think it was, it lent itself to the real essence of the art form of announcing.
Well, and even FM.
AM radio.
Most people listen to their own music, whether it's MP3 or CD.
Yes.
Or they listen to.
I wouldn't even know an FM station that,
no one I know listens
I've turned on in a long, long time. So
that's the thing is like, even like the people who are still in radio, it's funny, like we had the mentality, but that was like 3 years ago. Like, it's already turning. In the last 3 years, it's pretty clear.
It's over. No question.
Yeah, okay.
Flowers are in a punch, my friend.
No.
All right, we're coming back with more. Jason Cole, scheduled to join us here, and hopefully we'll make that connection in just a moment for you. And be back with that. Now that.
The time.
Believe it or not, Lubie, I've been thinking about playing pickleball.
Oh,
is that when it's over, man? Talk about the flowers being in the punch. The sound kind of intrigues me, the sound of the game. It's 8:29. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
World, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten Meshuggah.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Meshuggah might be an apt description to apply to anybody that was considering betting large amounts of money on the Hall of Fame game. And I just got back from a Gamblers Anonymous meeting last week. And the first guy gets up there and says, wow, I had to come back in because I'm thinking about betting preseason football. But that's right around the corner, and the temptation will be dangling out there. And I'm sure the FanDuel people would love to tempt you into thinking that this was something you could make a score on. I don't know that it is. And a man who would probably be on the opposite side of that argument joins us right now from Outkick.com, and of course, Monster when it comes to any kind of NFL inside information. He is the number one guy. Mr. Jason Cole joins us here on the program. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I always thought that betting on preseason football is without question the lowest form of degeneracy.
You're talking to our audience here. That's saying a lot. We were betting Korean baseball during the pandemic.
Well,
yeah.
You know, the audience for this show, I think that proves nothing.
You've sized them up appropriately, man, like Matt Damon and Rounders. Yeah, you just know what is in the other person's hand. All right, will you be attending the Hall of Fame ceremonies? We were thinking possibly so, because I would imagine, like many people that were covering the team at the time, you probably had a very favorable and a very meaningful relationship with one Zach Thomas.
I do. Unfortunately, I can't go this year. I've got some other commitments to B pluses, and I'm very, very, very disappointed by that. I'm a little sad by the fact that I can't be there, but I can't. But I'll be watching. I'm sure Zach will do a great job on his speech. I'm sure it'll be incredibly heartfelt because that's how he played his whole career. So I expect nothing less. I know I won't be disappointed. But yeah, this is when they did the I guess that unveiling TV show with Steve Weish and Jimmy Johnson was in the room. You saw Zach sort of stagger at that moment when he saw Jimmy and realized what it meant. That hit me a little bit too. It was pretty special thing to see. And see how he was impacted by this, and how thankful he's been since it happened.
I'm thinking you had to be on Dolphin beat coverage when Zach first broke in.
I was covering the Dolphins when he showed up. Yep.
And here's this guy. What was he, a 5th round draft pick? And he looked like Fred Flintstone. And you're asking yourself, I mean, in what backwards direction are we going? In spite of the Jimmy Johnson downsizing theory about, putting a guy down a notch in terms of position, with this guy in the inside linebacker spot. What were your original impressions of Zach Thomas? Because I just remember, I mean, this guy, running sideline to sideline like a maniac. And you're thinking, how does this guy that looks like he should have no speed, how is he, catching up to these people from behind and making tackles, that are significant, play after play after play?
I just remember thinking that Zach played on the football field, played so much faster than anybody else that it was one of the first times that I remember going, okay, there is a mind speed to this game that is far more important. And he was the biggest proof of it. That was far more important than true speed. Because we've all seen guys who were super fast. Who was that running back that Jimmy took in the
John Avery?
John
Avery.
No, there was another guy who took like in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, middle round guy that just was super fast. One of those guys who had the most amazing straight line speed. And I remember there was one time, I think, in a game or practice, I can't remember. The guy's name eludes me. He had like one play his entire career. But, there was one moment where he caught a hole in the middle of the field, went right through it, and just was spraying through, and he went like that was majestic, pure athletic speed. But if you asked him to read blocks and figure out how to get through the line, he ran like he was like a 4.850 guy, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't play. Whereas Zach could just get himself through the pile of human beings and get to where he needed to be so quickly compared to if you put him on a track and said, go ahead and run. Yeah, I mean, it was Fred. It was actually more Barney Rubble.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. I was thinking of Izzo in that capacity, right? I mean, because they were kind of associated together like Clayton and Duper for a small, short period of time.
They were best friends. They were roommates their rookie year. And there's some stories about that. Yeah, I mean, there is intuitive football knowledge and understanding that makes you play faster than you really are because you know what you're supposed to do. And no one that I've ever seen had better intuitive ability to know how you're supposed to play this game than Zach Thomas. And in the 30 years that I've watched, he's at the top of the line for that. I mean, look, Marino could read a defense faster than any other human being, but it's just a different thing because Marino didn't have to. All he had to do was basically drop back and throw it. And that's not easy. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but he didn't have to get himself through the fray the same way. So it was a remarkable thing to watch. And then you could hit. And I still remember that interception. It's the most sublime play of all time. People just don't understand how remarkable it is from reading a defense and understand what was going on. That interception at the 1 yard line against the Raiders on a screen pass on a third down situation. We're just not supposed to do that, right? But he snags it at the 1 yard line and takes one step in and scores a touchdown. I've still never seen anything quite like it, where a guy, intercepts a screen pass like that. It just people don't understand like what goes into that play and understanding what's going on for that to happen.
It wasn't like Mike Vrabel getting the information from Keith Byers and picking off Marino in that Patriot game when he seemed to know where the pass was going before Marino threw it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was Ted Johnson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ted Johnson? Yeah. I thought it was Vrabel.
Johnson. Yeah. No, it was Ted. Vrabel was still with Pittsburgh, I think, at that time.
Okay.
But anyway, but that was the one where, they were using all their signals because Myers had told them what the audible signals were. And I remember Lamar Thomas sitting there going, throwing up his hands going, I don't know what to do. They know our signals better than we do.
Yeah. That was another Belichick thing where he would always acquire a player from the team that he was meeting the following week. And, just happened to get the guy on the roster. And next thing you know, he's anticipating plays he was Bobby Fischer in a chess match there. All right. What do you think? Let's get into the season upcoming a little bit. I mean, the key issues would be what? I mean, is somebody going to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs? Are the Philadelphia Eagles going to come back and be as good as they were last year? Maybe with a chance to win it all again with Jalen Hurts? Who's on the improve? I mean, what are you looking for? Are the Bills in decline? Can the Jets do it with Rodgers? What are some of the focal points that you have going into the season, Jason Cole?
Well, it's Aaron Rodgers, then it's Aaron Rodgers, and then it's Aaron Rodgers. Right?
All right.
To me, that's what this season is sort of about, because that is story 1A with the Bullets. There are a bunch of really great stories after that. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But there's nothing quite like one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. And people could argue whether he has number one in pure passing ability, or whether he's number 10 because he hasn't, won enough champions. And we can have that long debate. I don't care. Aaron Rodgers is is a meteoric talent, right? He's just an amazing player with amazing backstory and all the things that go with him. And you put that show in New York, come
Yes.
on. Like, yeah, like there's nothing bigger than that. And you know Jets fans. Like they've already bought tickets to go to Vegas. Yeah, they really have. And they're already said whatever the line is on the Super Bowl, just take the Jets. And
Yes.
you know, you could say it's a 21 point, favorite line, and they'd still do the bet, right? I just think that every move is going to be watched so carefully at every step of the line to interpret what this team is going to do, that diminishes or tops, I should say, everything else going on. Now, as to the other questions that you posed out there, like I think the Eagles are going to be the class of the NFC. They'll regress a little bit because you just can't have that kind of year again where you go so turnover free for the entire season. I think they'll regress a little bit. It's hard to maintain that focus for a second year in a row, but they'll still be there and probably make at least the NFC Championship game, if not get to the Super Bowl. This whole thing with Dak Prescott and McCarthy, like eventually Jerry Jones is going to say, look, in the soap opera that is the NFL, we can't let Rodgers be there all the time. So I'm going to have something happen on my team where, people are talking about McCarthy and Dak,
right,
and about me and something absurd. So we already have the Dak focus on interceptions. You just know that Dak is going to throw like 25 interceptions this year, right? Because he's just promising the world that he will not throw more than 10. He will definitely throw 25 this year. It will be a complete and total mess.
A veritable pick machine, as they say.
Oh, it will be great. But the real story from a pure football standpoint is who comes out of the AFC. And you're going to have Jacksonville run the table in the AFC South, so they're going to win probably maybe 12, 13 games possibly.
Wow.
And you're going to have all those. I don't know how do you refer to a person from Jacksonville? Are they
Jacksonville Sonians? I don't know. What
yeah, I don't know.
Fools that would be for me, although my brother lives there and he says he likes it. But he's kind of antisocial. I mean, my brother in general.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
They used to be known for what? The TPC Sawgrass and dog tracks. Those were the two things they had going there.
Yeah, but there's a whole feel to Jacksonville, which is just it's like hee-haw with on the water, right? Right? Like
yes,
there's no real downtown. There's no downtown. I mean, they have a couple of buildings there, and they go, oh yeah, that's not a downtown,
right?
It's not a real. There's no real life in it, right? And they talk about how large the city is. It is. They took over all the. They just took over a bunch of property for no apparent reason other than to have a tax base. I mean, it's just not a city. It's it has no culture. It has no feel to it. So it really is the definitive hee-haw city. So to take them, it's just hard to take them seriously. But the football team is going to be really good. As for Kansas City's going to be there by the end. They've still got their issue that they don't take the world as seriously as they need to on a week-by-week basis. But they have the best quarterback. That's the bottom line. And then between Buffalo and Cincinnati, I want to know which one of those two teams is going to be the most consistent threat to Kansas City and possibly get to the Super Bowl. Because to me, those teams have to take advantage of the window that they have right now. Because you know what happens in Cincinnati. Mike Brown's going to screw it up somehow. They can't be good that long. And Buffalo, they've been good here for the last 2 years. But did they somehow miss their opportunity?
It's kind of, I mean, it's fair, and yet at the same time, I noticed,
Number team you left
absent from these contenders was Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.
waiting for him to mention them.
They have a good team.
Do we have a shot? I mean, what's going on here, Jason Cole?
Hey, you got a shot, but the issue is like in all those teams, right? Like Tua made strides last year and had a very efficient year, and I get argument on Tua, the Twitterverse, the chewing on people on Twitterverse are going to talk about how underrated he was last year. Yeah, he was really good. He did, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that look really good if you give those two wide receivers, right? Like
sure,
you got Waddle and Hill. Like you can do a lot with those two guys, right? And he did.
Brian Hoyer probably could have looked good with those two guys.
Right. There's, it's sort of like you give Tom Brady, Randy Moss, and Wes Welker, and he throws 50 touchdown passes, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do that kind of stuff when you have really super talented people. And so he was really, really good last year. He's not Rodgers. He's not Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Joe Burrow. He's in the next level down with guys, like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's a better runner and some amazing things, but not quite as good a passer. I don't think as talented as Herbert, but Herbert also hasn't destroyed him in terms of being a productive player. They're probably at about the same level. I mean, that's three guys right there that are on that next level. And so I don't know that the Dolphins could be very good this year and not make the playoffs because the division is so tough. And I wonder what's going to happen with this team. I think it's going to be a really fascinating year for them. And yes, they could somehow win that division because they gave Buffalo everything that they handled last year in those games. But on a consistent basis, Buffalo was better. That's the issue because Buffalo's roster overall is better.
All right, a couple of quarterbacks pop into the mindset here, thinking what kind of year are they going to have? Curious about your opinion. Does Deshaun Watson make a comeback? What can Kyler Murray be? As a lot of people thought he was going to be a big superstar, and he kind of tailed off badly last year. And then they had a lot of acrimony in the organization, more changes made, not uncommon with the Arizona Cardinal organization. You have now Derek Carr going to be in a new spot. You have Garoppolo in Las Vegas. We don't know what's going to happen in San Francisco just yet. I mean, or whether Purdy comes back as strong as he was last year. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, let's start with Watson, and then of course you also have Russell Wilson. With Sean Payton opening up a big mouth about Hackett and how it wasn't his fault last year. Of those guys that kind of tailed off, Murray, Watson, Russell Wilson, who do you see as being the most likely to make a comeback to prominence?
Well, Watson has the most talent. So, from a fantasy football perspective, if you're out there drafting kids, I think Deshaun Watson is going to be really good.
Okay.
I think the one thing with Deshaun Watson that I worry about is he doesn't really want to be in Cleveland. They had to give him that fully guaranteed contract was because they had to make it so overwhelmingly tempting for him to approve the trade. He wanted to go to Atlanta, right? But
okay,
all of a sudden Cleveland said, okay, we'll give you every single dollar, even though you might have done some things off the field that are concerning, right? Like it just was an absurd contract. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to be in a place, it's going to be hard. And so I don't know that he's ever fully going to achieve what he's supposed to be because I don't think his heart is really truly in it. he just did this for the money, and it's hard for guys to maintain that passion when they're just playing for the money. So I worry a little bit about that.
All right.
Russell Wilson, I think it's going to be a lot better because he will have a system in place that'll work for him. He's still not, however, a pocket passer in the way that Drew Brees was. So it's not a perfect marriage between him and Sean Payton. It's a better marriage because Payton understands how to design an offense. And Payton has the gravitas to look at Russell Wilson and say, you're going to do it my way, or you're going to go to the bench because I don't care. I didn't make the trade for you. I'm not responsible for you. So, do it my way or don't. And he just has that kind of personality. Who are some of the other guys?
Kyler Murray, another guy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go with Garoppolo. Look, Garoppolo is a brain dead heaver. He's got talent, but he's just a really nice guy. Will give you everything he's got, but this guy is just a guy. He's gonna get hurt somewhere along the line because he always is.
Yeah.
I'm sure of who he is. Kyler Murray. I think his moment might be done. Depending on how his running ability is coming back off this knee injury. When you're really small like that and have that kind of running ability, and you play in a spread offense, it's a really good marriage for a short period of time. But eventually, when you start to slow down, you have to play for the pocket. Being that small, it's really hard to overcome. So everything about his ability depends on, A, does he have the running ability, and B, is he playing in a system that allows him to maximize that running ability. And early in his career, he did. That allowed him to play pretty free, pretty easy, and not have to necessarily know the nuances and all the things that go with, playing in the NFL. He can get by on athletic ability. Then when it became harder and he wasn't running as effectively anymore, and you had to really study and understand things, and that's where he started to run into some real problems. And that's the thing that they talked about in the clause in the contract where he had to study, and the complaints that you hear from Steve Keim about how he wasn't very professional. The other comments that you hear, he wasn't ready because he didn't understand that this is how the game was played at the next level. He's never had to play that way because his athletic gifts were so pronounced, especially his quickness.
Jason Cole, Outkick.com, outstanding on the National Football League. I would ask you, and we appreciate your time, what level of concern will there be on the part of Jet fans if they lose the Hall of Fame game or fail to cover the 1.5 points? No, they're underdogs in this thing.
If they lose the Hall of Fame game, and even though Rodgers probably won't play, right?
I don't even think he dresses, right, after the game.
Yeah, I don't think he does. Does he even make the trip? Like that kind of thing.
That's it.
Oh yeah, they'll be burning all of their tickets. But even though those tickets are not on paper, this is not a progressive.
Yeah. Those Altoon jerseys will be barbecued out at Jones Beach. Yeah.
They'll light the Meadowlands on fire. MetLife Stadium will go up in flames.
It's over. Yes.
Yeah. It's horrendous. Although I can imagine Zach, if they lose that game, and the reaction from Jets fans, that'll be pretty funny.
It's going to be entertaining, to say the least.
That would be awesome. So.
Jason Cole on Twitter at what was the
at Jason Cole 62
location? At Jason Cole 62.
Jason Cole 62. Yep, that's where
beautiful. All right, stay on top of it, my friend. Thanks so much for being with us. Always a pleasure.
We'll talk to you later.
Talk soon.
All right, Jason Cole, ladies and gentlemen. Outkick.com.
Sir.
There's a lot of shit there, huh? I mean,
a
lot of things going into this NFL season.
You kept getting to the things I wanted to talk about, so I was like, all right.
Yeah, no questions from the lube. What happened there? I mean,
I was gonna ask you
I was wondering. I was actually going to type you a message and say, well, what happened to you, man?
I was gonna ask about the Dolphins, and then you asked about the Dolphins, and then I was gonna go. So, what were your thoughts on Sean Payton throwing Hackett under the bus? And then you brought in every quarterback in the league. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I don't have that.
Well, what could you think about that? I mean, it's just, we talked about it yesterday, where you just never see that. And I would imagine after Peyton saw the comments, he thought, probably not a good position to take, even if he, I mean, who knows? Look, what we found out about John Gruden, right? He was Mr. Everything in football is wonderful. And then he's talking, hey, these fucking stupid scumbags, they don't know shit about anything, right? All right, Johnny. I mean, it wasn't particularly flattering what he had to say about anybody, and yet you were always hearing him refer to, and the so-and-so, the great this. I mean, he was Dick Vitale on steroids when it came to talking about how great everybody in the National Football League was, and it turns out he thought they were all assholes. Fantastic. Not the first time that we've seen somebody represent themselves in one fashion and actually be coming from a completely different place, which is great. I mean, but once again, I mean, I'm comforted by the thought that there's a man out there getting indicted for us, Lubie. All of these crimes, did it for us. Incredible. Right? There were no phone calls. There's nothing on tape. There's no evidence. I mean, and this employee number 4 at Mar-a-Lago apparently didn't take the bait. The usual.
Exactly.
That guy looked stunned yesterday. You talk about Diana Nyad when she got out of the water there in Key West after that last swim when she finally made it from Havana. And she had a jellyfish on her head, and she looked like Chuck Wepner in the 15th round of the Ali fight. Staggering around. I mean, that's what this guy looked like yesterday. He was shell-shocked, man. They rolled him in the corner. I mean, this is a guy who was a maintenance worker. I don't know. I guess at Mar-a-Lago, he runs into celebrities or whatever, probably. Does he even recognize who these people are?
No idea.
That are hanging out there? Who lives in Mar-a-Lago? Not actual celebrities, right? They just come there for... the Trumpster freebie balls that are paid for by the campaign committee. That was incredible. And so he decides, hey, I'm not saying nothing yet. And I guess employee number 4 is the guy. He was not indicted, even though he received a target letter. So you get the funny feeling that it's Canary City over there, no?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's my thing with all this is he always gets off, but no one seems to like him. So who is protecting him?
Yeah, right. I mean, when you see what happens to all these other people, I mean, eventually you're going to have some lawyer wake you up and say, hey, listen, man,
you would think
you got a shot to save your own skin here.
Why wouldn't you? He's never protected anyone. He throws everyone under the bus. So why would anyone protect him? It makes zero sense to me.
That's a great question, man. Money talks, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
He's going to just reach into his pocket and hand him 50 grand. I don't know. All right, we have to run. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo and the crew. That'll be Lubie and me. We'll be along at 12 o'clock, South Florida Live, and the Let's Eat South Florida Facebook page, which has like 114,000 subscribers, is a dynamite vehicle for anything in the restaurant industry. Virtually anything, Lubie. Incredible. That was unfortunate, the deterioration of Myron's Deli, which is a place that I liked.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. I guess stick with the basics, huh?
It's like one.
I disagree with Mayo completely, though, that you should fear, ordering a salad at a Jewish deli. I would think it would be even better there. Yeah.
It's a salad. I mean,
You go to Grandpa's and you get a salad, you don't think it's going to be off the chart?
Anything I've ever gotten at Grandpa's is good.
Pamperdale Deli, I mean, I would imagine if you went in there and got a salad, you would both go, wow, that is an incredible salad, no?
They do a great job at Grandpa's, and you're thinking Myron's. It's a fucking salad. It's lettuce. With
I've had salads there before, though. I mean, they were not overwhelming. I mean, it wasn't the Beverly Hills Cafe where you walked away and said, man, now that is how you make a salad, which a lot of people felt, right?
It's a salad. I mean, come on. It's not, you would think it's hard to ruin a salad.
How can you blow it, right? A couple of little crummy chickpeas there and one little slice of onion, 4,000 pounds of hot peppers. A chopped salad that isn't chopped. It's big clumps of shit. I don't know.
I don't know.
From description, it's like we say about the Sunset Inn down there in Key Largo, man. It's okay, but it looks nothing like the brochure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They don't show you that at least the flying palmettos are doing under the speed limit in the brochure.
Exactly.
All right, we'll see you guys 12 o'clock. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Always a lot of fun. Mayo hasn't been eating at home anymore. Huh?
Not as much. No, he's curtailed it, but it hasn't stopped him
It's
from.
particularly disgusting when he's eating at home. At least when he's at a place, it's entertaining. When he's just like slurping down a yogurt or something because he's on that half hour where he's going to clean up his act.
Yeah.
I don't find that all that thrilling. It was kind of like that women's soccer game. Was that a classic? I mean, are people going to be looking at that as a classic? Did we miss something, Libby?
0-0 is not a classic.
I was shocked at that game. I mean, it's like the Mega Millions drawing I thought was last night also. It's tonight. So I'm still broke. All right. We'll see you guys 12 o'clock today as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.